Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to ILO users. Today is Wednesday, October 5th. My name is Helen Pinder. I am the resource sharing consultant here for SWAN, and I am joined by my co-chair, and I will turn the mic over to her. Let her introduce herself.
Thanks, Helen. I'm Megan Moran. I'm the Assistant Department Head of Customer Services at the Oak Lawn Public Library.
Thank you, Megan, and I'm going to try to get my Zoom back so that I can see people. Okay. I'm just going to call out names. If you have the ability to unmute yourself, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from. I see Vicky.
I will be first. I'm Vicky Totten. I am from SWAN. Here I am.
Megan, I already got you. Dawn.
I'm Dawn Tortorella from SWAN.
Thank you, Dawn. I see Patricia.
Patricia Shuba from Indian Prairie Public Library.
Welcome, Patricia. Jane.
I'm Jane Rubick from the LaGrange Public Library.
Thank you, Jane. Mary.
I'm Mary Malik from the Messenger Public Library in North Aurora.
Welcome, Mary. Scott.
Hi, I'm Scott Brandwein, the SWAN Bibliographic Services Manager.
Thank you, Scott. Laura.
I'm Laura from the Oak Lawn Public Library.
Welcome, Laura. Morgan.
Hi, I'm Morgan from the Messenger Public Library.
Welcome, Morgan. Carly. Hello, Carly. I'm the ILL officer at the Franklin Park Public Library. Welcome, Carly. Sue. Oh, I saw Sue unmuted, but I don't hear her. Sis, if you want to. Oh,
this is Susan Crass. I'm from the Geneva Public Library.
Thank you, Susan. Welcome. I see Lisa. I am Lisa from the Matson Area Public Library. Welcome, Lisa. And Claudia.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Claudia Nixon, SWAN's Bibliographic Service Consultant.
Thank you, Claudia. All right, welcome, everybody. Okay, we're just going to dive right in. This is a very informal group. Those of you who've been here a few times know that. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat, unmute yourself. If you have anything to contribute, the major topic today is going to be newworldcat.org. Very, very exciting. I was almost late to this meeting because I was goofing around in it, as I have started doing. So I'm going to share my screen, but if any of you guys have learned any tips or tricks or anything that has thrown you, please speak up and let me know, and we'll navigate over there. So I'm going to go over to worldcat.org, and I'm going to stop doing what I was doing, which was building a list. I was just having fun with that. Okay, so newworldcat.org. It's pretty and it's shiny. Unmute and or show hands who've made personal logins for newworldcat.org. Anybody? Morgan? Megan? Okay, well, if you haven't, please do it. I strongly encourage you to do it, because it's just a more robust experience. So you come to worldcat.org, you can sign in just as a person, and then you can do your searches, or you can go down these cool little rabbit holes. And I don't even know where to begin. It's just, there's a lot here. One thing that threw me, that I wanted to share with you guys. So I have in my profile that I created, I have my favorite libraries. And I have my favorite library as the St. Charles Library. That's my geographically closest library. When I was testing this, this is when I set my favorites. You have to excuse me, I'm still coughing really badly. So I set my location when I was testing. After it went live, coincidentally, I also had to reset a whole bunch of passwords on my computer. So I had to clear my cache, all my browsing history. When I did that, even though I had set my location in my profile, this wasn't showing as anything. And I didn't have my location enabled, and I hadn't populated this. So it wasn't finding my location. So when I was doing a search for Harry Potter, if I were looking for this, and I would scroll down here, the libraries that were coming up here were not my geographically closest libraries. They were in Kansas, or they were way far away. And I was completely baffled, because if I went here to view access options, or if I clicked borrow from this still worked. So the access options and the borrow that we have configured in WorldCat Discovery, this was still working properly. But if I'm a regular patron, I'm not necessarily going to see this right away, especially if I'm on a mobile device. I'm going to start to scroll and then wonder why nobody has Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows in state, which is patently false, but you know. So I go to view access options. I can get it from my library. It sends me over to Aspen, to St. Charles's instance of Aspen, remembers where I was. Everything carries over. It's really, really cool. But if you ever get a patron who is wondering why this isn't working, they probably need to set their location, because the favorite library in the profile doesn't seem to carry as much weight as the geographically closest libraries. So just, that was something that completely threw me for a loop for about an hour. And then I figured it out and it all made sense. Which also brings me to, if you guys haven't already done so, log into in your WorldCat configuration, make sure your address is in there correctly and that it displays correctly and that you're discoverable in this map.
And that's in service configuration under your
Yes.
location. Yeah. But we
And
think they're all right.
I'm pretty sure they're all right. I did a few spot checks and everybody seemed like they were correct. And I don't think there's been any major changes in terms of address, except for Geneva recently, the last several years. Still doesn't hurt to take a look at your configuration periodically anyway. Did anybody else explore WorldCat?
So I think it's important to kind of make a distinction between when would I be using worldcat.org versus my WorldCat Discovery, kind of patron hat versus staff hat. And also, if remember that our WorldCat Discovery instances have the scoping of SWAN and Illinois, which determines whether or not those ILL request buttons are going to show. That's not available in worldcat.org.
Yeah.
So there are additional nice staff related and kind of those really high-end patrons that are making requests. You want to work with them through your discovery instance. But for the basic, patron who just wants to look at WorldCat and maybe make a list of things they like that your library may or may not have, worldcat.org is going to be best for them.
Yeah, and you can make lists, oops, let me back up one. So if I wanted to add this to a list, I could do it here. I've only got one list right now, and it's a short stories list. But if I wanted to build a list, I could do this here. The cool thing about lists in WorldCat is now you can share them. So if you want to make a list and share it with your colleagues, you can do that. You can make it publicly discoverable. They've just really ramped up their list features, and there's documentation all about it. Here are some popular lists, recently updated lists. I'm a firstborn kid, so I love lists. I'm a list maker. So yeah, lists and
but you cannot surface these lists in Aspen. So again, it's like we have all of these various tools. How many lists am I going to create? So if you're looking to present lists to your patrons for, you know, your library's list, you're going to want to do those in Aspen.
right. But sharing between colleagues, and maybe for stuff that doesn't necessarily exist in the catalog, this is a really cool tool. But yeah, for delivering things to your patron, you're going to want to go through Aspen first and foremost whenever it's possible. Yeah, that's kind of all I've been doing. Is I've just been going down these little rabbit holes of clicking into things and just seeing what's there. And again, what I see here depends on where I am in the world. So you all are going to click on that same place and you're going to see different things than what I'm seeing here because of my location settings. And just speaking as a patron, I find that really neat.
And if this is a, you know, a tool, a resource you're going to make available to your patrons, also remember that your holdings are not going to be 100% accurate because we're always behind. So we do those updates monthly. So there are some, you know, like gotchas that you just have to be careful of in promoting worldcat.org to patrons. They're going to come back and say, well, you don't have this book. It's like, yes, we do have this book. It's brand new. It's on the shelf and you have to use our catalog. So it's, yeah, as a library, making the WorldCat, like, how do you explain to patrons that this is great, but it's not always up to date? Be sure you use our definitive catalog. So just think of all those little things where patrons are going to get confused. Your staff, your colleagues are going to get confused over which tool to use when.
Yeah, that's why I strongly encourage you guys to just play around in this and see where the pitfalls are, see where a patron would get confused, so that you can speak to that question. You know, why don't you have this brand new thing? And it's right over there, you know, that sort of thing. So yeah, this I'm having fun with it. It's a new toy, and I'm using it as a patron is using it because it's just a cool thing. And I love how when there are things in my catalog, in the SWAN catalog, I can easily get there. And when they're not, I can initiate an ILL request. And that's all configured in Discovery. So again, this is a cool patron tool, but it needs to go back to Aspen. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about WorldCat? I mean, there's
Helen,
too
how
much
do
here.
those topics get updated? Is that something that their OCLC or partner libraries are doing? Because some of them seem pretty good.
That is an excellent question, and I don't have an answer to that.
I do like those, like the you didn't have to set up anything to
No.
get those. Yeah.
No, this is all just here, and it seems like it's been the same. It's been these same three on the front page. Whoops. On the home page. I've been seeing these three for a while. So I don't know if that's going to change or if that's something I can change. Or if that's something that you guys are going to see differently, if that's another thing that's availability driven.
I think if you tie your login to your World Share Management Services login, when you do that and you sign up with your symbol and you attach it to an institution, and if your roles have enough permissions, you can then create these topics, but I don't know any more than that.
Let's take a look. Let's sign in as an institutional user. I think I'm gonna have to do that. Librarians. Not seeing.
What about if you go to topics, do you have the ability to create one?
Not seeing
Maybe
anything.
not. There may be new permissions. We have to look in the roles and
Could be.
let's check on that.
So I'm gonna sign out of SWAN. So yeah, there's a lot here. And I encourage you all to like get in here, get your hands dirty. If you notice anything cool or weird, throw it on the forums. If you do start to hear from your patrons that, they're not seeing things, let us know.
Helen?
Yes.
It's Mary Malik from Messenger. I just have a question. Are you aware of any libraries promoting this to patrons, and if so, how are they doing that?
I don't know of anyone offhand. I'm just expecting that more patrons are going to happen upon this because it's going to be more visible if you just do a just regular Google search for a book. This is going to surface more readily in Google and Goodreads. We do have, and Dawn, you're going to have to elaborate on this if I say it wrong. We do have Blue Cloud visibility. So if I just do a regular search for, let me just go home. Let me just do a regular search for what's going to show up in my right hand nav here is get book from Audible Kindle, and then right on top is my closest library, my closest, incidentally, SWAN library. And
if you look at those links in the lower left as Helen hovers over those Messenger Public Library, and see how it says library.link. That's part of Blue Cloud visibility, but we will see more and more WorldCat links in there too. And I think the intention is that as they promote that and the location services, they'll know where the patron is logged in from or where their IP address is registered, nearest library, and then those WorldCat links to those items with your library featured are going to pop up. So Helen's right. We don't know how patrons are going to find this, but the majority are going to find it through searches.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and if they use Goodreads, Goodreads was mentioned specifically as a platform that they're working with. So if I click on want to read, well, anyway, you're going to start to see, yeah, you're going to see have more patrons happening across this.
And a lot of our libraries in like databases and resources or reference, whatever your menu option on your website is, a lot of them have a link to worldcat.org.
Yeah, that's a good point. I can go to, I really wish my controls would not block everything. I'm going to find numbers because I know Carol Stream has an embedded search on their website. So they have an embedded search up here that patrons can toggle and enter a single search term here. So yeah, play with this because more and more patrons are going to be finding it and wanting to use it because it is pretty and shiny and it is mobile friendly. Okay, so I'm going to close out of WorldCat. Carol Stream. Okay. Does anybody have any more questions about WorldCat before we move on?
One of the big differences to WorldCat new versus WorldCat old and why it's so confusing to those of us who have used WorldCat Discovery. WorldCat Discovery includes the WorldCat bibliographic database, and that's what our default search is for, but it also contains what's known as the central index of additional open source e-content that can be configured at the library level. Those also include the first search databases. In the past, worldcat.org has been only the bibliographic database. It hasn't included all of that central index content. Now it does. So there are more and more kind of open educational resources, how do you trust things you're going to find in there now. So it has expanded to include that stuff. We tend to focus just on the bibliographic stuff, but we're with Olivia on board. She's going to be experimenting with the e-resources and all of these OCLC related things too, to see if we can't pull more in.
Cool. Thanks, Don. All right, moving on. Megan, you had asked that we add WorldCat, I'm sorry, looking at the wrong thing. Find More Illinois to the agenda. Do you want to speak to Find More Illinois at all? Or should we just...
Yeah, sure. I can just talk about kind of why this came up. So SWAN Library had emailed me and just kind of said, you know, I know we kind of talked about this a little bit as an entire SWAN membership and just talked about a little bit about Find More Illinois, but there may still be some libraries that are interested in it, you know, as individual libraries kind of working with Find More Illinois or using it as another resource sharing opportunity. So I put that on the forums to see if anybody else was interested and emailed Helen to be like, hey, we've got, you know, somebody that may be interested or curious a little more. And it's also just a good topic, I think, to revisit and make sure that, you know, we're still comfortable with the decisions that we're making with resource sharing. And it's been a few years, at least for me. So that's why we're here.
Okay. So my plan was I was going to go into Find More Illinois right now, and I was going to have you guys call out titles that maybe you've had to go to OCLC to get. And let's just spot check and see if they're available in Find More Illinois. I should have sent out a message to you guys because that's a homework assignment. So I'm going to try to go. New tab. Okay. I'm going to go to the Rails homepage because I don't have this bookmarked. Okay. So and I don't remember off the top of my head, are there 36 participating?
There's around that many. I don't really know for sure anymore, but I just pasted the URL of a board report that we worked with Aaron to put in the board packet. That was back in October of 2021. So it's been about a year since we've looked at it, and that kind of laid out Find More Illinois and what it would mean to our membership. And if individual libraries were interested in participating, while it's free for a year, I think, to bring people on board, there are costs associated with what that cost per public library would be. And I think that is provided in there as well, just to give you an idea. Maybe not the exact breakdown, but yeah, we'd have to look at that. But the pricing is what it was. So I'm not sure exactly what it is per library.
Okay. So you can see the number of, there's one academic, quite a few publics, but there's a number of publics in here that are part of a consortium. So what's going to happen is if there's a title hit for a library that's part of this consortium, even if they're not a Find More Illinois participant, you're going to get a hit in Find More Illinois, even though you can't borrow that item, which is confusing.
And I think that might somewhat have changed, Helen, with their new approach, because now they are using a union catalog.
Okay.
So the union catalog is pulling just for those individual members now that are participating. But what that means is if a library were to participate, that library would have to have their complete MARC records exported from SWAN into Find More Illinois repeatedly. You know, so since we're already doing that on a monthly basis with OCLC, it's a similar but a more in-depth process, because we would have to send over the full MARC records of all participating libraries.
Okay. Does anybody have a title that they would like me to search and just see if it's here? Anything that has proven difficult to lay your hands on?
Or maybe the last thing you guys asked for, if you go to your Worldshare ILOQ, what was the last request you made for something?
Yep, filled or unfilled.
Yeah.
I have one called the Nightingale Girls.
I can't spell.
You got it. I can
Did
also
I? That looks really wrong to me.
right? Yeah, it does. Oh wait, it's an IN. That would be why.
Nightin, that'd be why.
I got it wrong too.
So this is actually something I noticed yesterday when I was doing this, is the spelling has to be perfect. it does not seem to have fuzzy logic. Nightingale, yeah, that looks, yeah, because it looks nightingale English. Okay, so Nightingale girls.
I hear Helen's clock.
Sorry.
I love your clock. You can keep ringing.
I'm not seeing it.
Do we have an ISBN, Megan? Can we search by ISBN?
We can search
Or by, I wonder if we can search by OCLC number? No? Okay.
I'm gonna drop it in the chat, the ISBN.
Okay, grab that. Okay. So no Nightingale girls. Anybody else have a title? Or an ISBN?
I think at one point, I mean, back in a year ago, when we looked at the Find More Illinois participating libraries and checked to see if they were OCLC members, I think the majority of them were OCLC members. So it's kind of like if we have OCLC configured and we're using that day in and day out, it just, those libraries, we can request things through OCLC. So. Is that the right book, Sandpipers?
It looks like it.
Okay, so there's one copy. How many could you get in Coal City?
I think they did supply us through OCLC.
Okay, Coal City did, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And which one was that? By Annie Taylor. What a great title. When a Thug Holds Me Close. That's
Okay.
an interesting autocorrect.
Right?
Yeah.
Would not have expected that.
That's fun. So Helen, so for our libraries, we're not really seeing any advantage to Find More Illinois because the universe is so shrunken. And if a library participates in Find More Illinois, they're eventually going to have to pay. We are still continuing to be full OCLC members for all of our SWAN libraries for all of the services we offer. So there's no cost savings. It would be an additional expense. And it would be a second staff interface that you would have to know how to use and be checking daily.
Yep. Yep. So this is a good, Find More Illinois is a great solution for maybe a standalone library that doesn't have OCLC access, because then this is a good resource sharing tool to get access to a broader collection. But we've already got WorldShare. So,
and our consortium.
And the consortium, which is if my memory serves me correctly, and there's only 30 some odd libraries in here, we're 3 times their size. So we are bigger and stronger and faster. So if anyone has any questions about this, you can speak now, or you can send us a ticket or an email. I think a lot of the people who are asking about Find More Illinois were not the people who necessarily use ILL on a daily basis. So face value, you have these two tools. One is less expensive, you know, but they don't see what's under the hood. So you all ILL folks, you know the power of World Share, and you can maybe speak to that a little bit better if anybody asks you. Oh. So that's Find More Illinois.
Anybody else have questions about Find More?
No, I don't have a question, but thanks for going through that with everybody again, especially since there was a question about it. And I think it's just smart to reinvestigate periodically, you know, and make sure as individual libraries, I guess, that we're, you know, making the right decisions for us about resource sharing, which I currently feel very comfortable with what we're doing here. So that's my own 2 cents.
Yeah, we've done a lot of configuration in WorldCat Discovery. Yeah, I think we're in a place where we're becoming more automated, and we're trending towards less work. We don't want to add a platform where there's going to be more work now, if it's at all possible.
Right, that was one of my major concerns, is just staffing and how my, you know, how would I even get buy-in to check this kind of tertiary thing? And would it be worth time and energy to do that? And I personally have not been able to justify that. So that's just me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Speaking as someone who works on the back end of things. Those are really the only 2 major topics that I had. I just wanted to encourage you all again, go on the forums, ask your questions, share your knowledge. I'm sorry, my insurance adjuster is now
crawling on the roof.
Crawling on my roof. So I'm very distracted right now. Forgive me. Go on the forums, share your wisdom, share your questions. I'm also going to post calls for user group topics there. So if you just, you know, think of something, you know, shower thoughts, hop in the forums, just post it there, and then we'll just kind of collect it all for the next meeting. And hopefully we'll have a more robust agenda than just these 2 topics.
Helen, do you want to talk about OCLC overall stats for SWAN? I've got that spreadsheet pulled up if you want me to share my screen and just.
That one?
Let me see. Let me get your face back on. It's like I'm toggling a bazillion screens here. Yes, that one.
Okay. Actually, if I could have you speak to that a little bit.
Oh, I lost your screen. Hang on. There we go. Okay, so if you go to this next tab, the ILL since 2009, we've been collecting, you know, monthly the OCLC stats for all of the SWAN libraries and just keeping track of how much are we lending, how much are we borrowing as a whole group. And you can see obviously things tanked during the pandemic, but we're on this upward. So it looks like ILL is going back up and up in our libraries. We continue to be a net lender by a lot, so the red is how much we borrow, the green is how much we lend. And I think we have, if you go to that net lender ratio, you'll also see a graph, I think. Yeah. So the only time we were a net borrower was during those pandemic months, where we basically, Helen went into all of your configurations and said, we're not sending anything out, and shut it all down because delivery was not happening in Illinois. So we shut that down. But there were still some libraries who were requesting material, maybe from out of state. So obviously our net lender ratio was kind of out of whack during those months. But it does show that you guys are doing an awful lot of ILL. If we go back to the 329, the second one. Well, yeah, this one's good. And scroll to the end. You see the data, the number of borrowing copies, loans, and lending as well. And we're starting to see a little bit, well, not so much, but we did see borrowing copies go up in June. And that was right after we did that workshop on article exchange. And so maybe we need to take more advantage of, especially if more of the e-content is being surfaced, and we can use that to kind of find electronic copies or articles for our patrons. We might want to, continue to do workshops in how do you surface articles from professional journals and things and request those. Because clearly the workshop did make a difference in that. So it's good to see, we're lending about 3,000 items a month, which is a lot. OCLC considers any library to be a large lender. I think if they lend more than 30 items a month. OCLC considers that, an active lending library if they send out 30 items a month. Well, you divide that by our 100 libraries and we're about there. So we're doing a lot.
Cool. Any questions on stats? No. Okay. Then, yeah, I just wanted to just briefly talk about the future of this group. I've been chair for several years now, and I would love to be able to pass the baton to somebody. So give that some thought. I mean, we're not going to meet again until February, I want to say. But if you would like to be a chair, or if you would like to see somebody else be a chair, just kind of spread the word through ILL library land. I'd like to get some fresh blood in here, so it's not just me talking at you for an hour and a half every couple of months. And that's all I have. So we'll open the floor.
And just keep in mind too, if anybody wants to, co-chair with Megan. Megan, are you going to continue to be co-chair?
I'm happy to, if, you guys and everybody in the room here wants me to. If we want a whole new group of co-chairs.
No, I think it's good to have some
old blood, some new blood.
Yeah,
wisdom and
some
experience.
Consistency and continuity. But do keep in mind that any of our user groups, we really want the members to be leading, but we will facilitate. We'll set up the Zoom, we'll post the agenda, we'll, do any homework you give us. So don't feel that you're out there on a limb by yourself. We're there as a resource to you, to support you.
Yeah, but you guys are the front line, and I think it should be your voices that are front and center. I'm very happy to be part of the background.
Just chiming like the clock.
Well, thank you. This has been great, very informative as always. And when do you think the recording will be posted?
I can probably get this pulled together end of business today or certainly tomorrow.
I just want to recommend it to a couple other people here that are involved with ILO. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely by week's end. I mean,
okay,
barring something completely catastrophic, it'll be out within the next day or so. And as I say that, I have two men staring in my window.
Well, there's no rush.
Okay. If nobody has any other questions, I'm going to stop the recording. And then if you want to ask questions there that you didn't want recorded for posterity. Did I hear a voice?
Yeah. Hi, Helen. I had a question.
Yeah.
I know in SWAN Expo, you talked about there's going to be an option instead of like we charge what, like we're free lenders. If you lend for free, it's going to be like an option to be we charge what you charge.
Mm-hmm.
I was just curious if anybody here has adopted that, if they have encountered any other libraries adopting that, or
St. Charles does that. St. Charles does that as a matter of course, and they use their, when last I was talking to them, they were specifically using their DVD collection as a revenue generator. There's a couple of libraries in New York that pretty routinely hit them up and they charge $20 to lend out their own DVDs. So St. Charles gets $20 a pop every time they send one of their DVDs to New York.
Thank you. I was curious.
And be sure if you put that like in your policies, there's nothing to, the policies are just read only, you know, so, but people can see them, and just make sure that you say in-state Illinois, no charges, because in state we've got delivery and we don't charge each other in state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Patricia says, we charge $20 or what you charge if more. So that's another price matcher. Anybody else?
So we're not recording anymore, right?
I'm going to stop the share right now. And the recording has
I think you were
ended.
You already stopped it, didn't you?
No. No.
Okay.